Shoot.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Jenn is making some last-minute adjustments, but we are all here and very excited to share just this saga, this wonderful saga of how people, right, namely James and Jennifer, but I mean, people have, met and networked and actually developed real relationships that have just birthed real results, and even this interview is definitely a direct result of networking and building genuine relationships, which is what I think is actually going to make this interview stand out just among the content that anybody could consume right now. So whether you're watching this live or you're catching it later, I would definitely say that myself and James and Jennifer have grown to be friends, and that's definitely a theme that I think you're going to catch here. So with James, I met James for the first time at LinkedIn Local Baltimore, which is tonight.
Wow.
The LinkedIn Local anniversary, third year anniversary for the entire organization is tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's another event that you might want to pop into for sure. But I met James there at LinkedIn Local Baltimore. And I actually met Jennifer first. We kind of connected on LinkedIn and we were both really excited because I was going to finally attend one of the Pace Setters quarterly events and I knew she was going to be there. So we had planned to meet there. And then she also was going to LinkedIn Local Baltimore. So then we ended up just reconnecting pretty much every month. And then just the three of us, that's how we would see each other at least once a month. We could count on being there at LinkedIn Local Baltimore. And that's how I kind of connected with the two of them. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that my wife introduced me to you, which normally my wife doesn't attend a lot of them. She's definitely been attending the virtual ones, the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And with Jennifer, I believe I've noticed her more at Phillips Seafood. I think that was in September or October of last year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I knew her beforehand, but I paid more attention then to who she was and what she did, and was like, wow, to be honest, I had no clue what PR was all about until that presentation, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Then I think it was this last December that Jenn, you said that you needed a photo for Baltimore Times for the LinkedIn Local article. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's all about slowly, methodically getting to know people, building relationships, and that whole phrase, know, like, and trust. And that's totally how I run my business. I can't just do cold calls or I'd rather a soft introduction or warm introduction from somebody else, and word of mouth, I think works best for me after being in public relations for over 25 years. It's crazy, but I love it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. I would love for you guys to give us your 30-second elevator pitch. And Jenn, you kind of even started going into it already. So please lay it on us.
And I just finished up an amazing call where I was able to explain exactly what I do and think of a triangle because I like things in threes. And for me, it's, my ideal clients are in that healthcare education space, because that's what I've always done. And that's where my passion is too, as well as being a mental health advocate. But I help my clients to increase their connections, their visibility, and their credibility through media relations, community outreach, and reputation management. And so for James, I've been able to kind of cover all of those components. Yeah.
That's awesome. This interview is going to be great just to kind of elaborate on all of that. But James, tell us about you.
Well, I am a full-time employee at Johns Hopkins University, currently working with COVID-19 positive patients. And my part-time is being a photographer in Baltimore, whether it's working with, doing weddings, working with nonprofit organizations, such as the Living Classroom Foundation, and the resident photographer for LinkedIn Local. There's really nothing that I don't capture, and I love being upfront. Just like Jen said, no cold calling. Just be warm, fuzzy. I like to build the personal relationships with my clients because they're again, it's word of mouth as well. So, and I've been doing this for 10 years.
Man. And I think that's probably the best segue into our first question. But I wanted to ask you, what made you want to capture the impact of quarantine on Baltimore? Just because, like you said, you do a lot of corporate events and weddings and families, but that's what I love about your photography of these events is that you capture us in moments where the enjoyment we're experiencing is incredibly authentic. Like I've seen your wedding photography and it's all so positive, right? Like you capture those very happy moments and the impact of quarantine on Baltimore hasn't been, just like a lot of the major cities, it hasn't been the best. Like it would be definitely categorized as negative, but your photos are so powerful and strong for that. So just curious, like what made you want to go out there? You already said you were working full time, working directly with, positive, COVID positive patients. What made you expend the additional energy to get out there?
Right. Again, photography is definitely a passion of mine. And this project that I was doing was just really something to kill time. There are no social events. Nobody's getting married right now. Nobody's booking family portraits. It originally just really started out with me asking a buddy of mine, I'm like, hey, weird question. Can I take a photo of you washing your hands? And he was like, for what? I was like, I'm trying to document this, pandemic in any way possible. Not sure if it's going to work out the way I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was a lot of brainstorming, a lot of going through the city before work, after work, capturing people on benches, speaking to people, and it just kind of blossomed into something really amazing. And I'm glad that I did it.
And I wanted to ask, so you already said that you knew Jennifer from before, right? Like we all know each other. You knew Jennifer from before, but what made you reach out to her when you thought, okay, maybe this could go somewhere? Why Jennifer?
Right. There's a lot of factors. Because it was the trust I already had in Jennifer, knowing her. And again, Jennifer is very honest with you. If she doesn't think, you have a good idea, she'll tell you, like, let's spin it this way, or let's do that instead. She was, a non-biased, person that would tell me if this was a great project or not. My wife, she'd be like, oh yeah, sure, advertise it, go for it. But again, she's my wife.
That's her job.
Right, exactly.
She'll hype you up.
Right. And I reached out to her and she's like, you know what? These photos are amazing. Let's see how we can do this. And national news. So,
that was a lot of fast forwarding, James.
And that's not exactly how it works. I was telling somebody earlier today, I said, it's magic. I said, but magic, a lot of work goes on behind magic. Things don't just happen. It's,
right.
I remember when James posted the pictures on a Sunday night and I'm like, oh my God, these are really beautiful. And I liked the black and white because it's more dramatic. It was haunting and raw. And, I also liked it because it was shining the light on, I think, reality of Baltimore. And Baltimore has been through such tough times that I thought this is such a human relations type of and human interest story. Not in a positive way, but in just that emotional way that I knew there was something there. And I reached out and said, hey, this is amazing. And then I know you called and asked for help. And then, I know what needs to go into it. You need to have, we needed to do a press release. We needed to have a bio ready. So we needed to get all of those things ready before I would start pitching, just to be organized. And also the way I do public relations is I need to have, the media relations component would be I need to have a package ready to go, approved. We're both comfortable. What is the strategy? What are the goals? It's all about the who, what, why, when, and where before we move forward. So it's really getting into the head of my client first so that I can respect and understand them, because I might have ideas, but I also need to know, James, as a business owner, why do you want to do this? And how is this going to help you and help your business, right? On that connection, visibility, credibility level. And so, that's kind of how we got started. And then he had some content he threw my way. I structured into a press release. And then I said, I need a bio. And you had done some good content. And I just kind of cleaned it up, made it really nice and neat. So, it's being prepared and being proactive so that when the reaction hits, that we're really organized and not just flying by the seat of our pants.
Right.
Because when you really pitch the media, you need to be organized because you need to respect their time. And the way I run my business is it's not about me. It's not about my client. It's about that news outlet and really helping them because they need really good content in order to help their audience out. And so I don't want to dive in deeper, but that kind of fills in there. That was
well,
that
and
first
so
part.
then I guess that's the question there, right? Because he could have taken the photos and just shared them on Facebook. And not even if you hadn't planted the seed, like they would have been on Facebook, people would have liked them, and that would have been nice. But what made you think that media outlets would be interested? What came into your mind when you saw them in terms of thinking like, okay, what angles would they appreciate and want to share with their audience?
Perfect question. And the tie-in in creating a whole package in a news story is James is a human. He's a father. He's a healthcare worker and a frontline healthcare worker.
Yeah.
And trying to keep up his creativity and his inspiration and motivation during a difficult time. That was it for me. It was not just that he was a photographer, but he was also, his experience and perception of the world was unique. And
Yes.
that's what you need to do to create a story is it needs to be unique. It needs to rise above all of the other noise, which we know there is so much noise right now, right? And a great statistic is only 5% of news pitches get into an outlet. So 5%. And I was talking with some other freelancers and PR people, and then the comment on Twitter was, and now we're working even 10 times harder because there's so much out there. But I get a gut feeling after my experience of over 25 years, I kind of know what's going to sell and what's not. And yes, I make mistakes or it's not done in a certain way. And I learn from that and I kind of catalog that in my mind so that I don't make another mistake moving forward on that same level. But I ended up meeting a great new friend, Rachel Carden, who is at WJZ, and she and I had connected, weeks or months prior, just because of her tweets. I just liked how she handled herself on Twitter, and that's where all the journalists are. And I have so many like new Twitter friends that are journalists and PR people and New York City physicians, ER docs and respiratory docs and all these different types of physicians because I was just kind of obsessed with the news stories that were coming out of New York that I was on Twitter 24/7.
Oh my goodness. I got to tell you, I'm probably sleeping on Twitter still. Like I'm on there, I comment, but you know what I'm going to do?
Is for me. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do another live stream where I like reverse engineer. Like I'll just crawl all over your Twitter feed and just like reverse engineer whatever it is that you're doing. because I think that's probably the best method. But before we go further, I did want to say, just to kind of take the opportunity to say thank you to you, James, for, that's your job. I get it, but it means a lot that you're out there, every day that they're asking you to be there. My husband's an at-risk person, so we've been extra careful about our social distancing. But even despite that, the reality of the matter is that any one of us could still get it. And for him, the impact has a much greater risk of being just worse. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I know if one of us gets it, we probably still wouldn't see you, but it's just there in my mind. I'm like, you know what? There are people like James out there, you know.
And, you know, I'm not going to lie, it's definitely scary working in the hospital as much as I have been lately. The procedures that are done, the respiratory swabs that I do, and, you know, being, you know, face to face with, you know, a COVID positive patient, you have to kind of swallow your fear and your nervousness, and, you know, you're there to do a job, but it's the precautions that you have to take in order to protect yourself. So,
well, it's still very, very brave. You know, brave is not acting in absence of fear. It's acting because of your fear. So if you don't feel fear, then you can't be brave.
right.
So I wanted to ask you, what was it like when you saw your first media placement? James Trudeau, photographer, photo gallery. What was that like?
So the interview on WJZ, I was very nervous. When it aired, I remember being in the living room with both of my girls, and my wife was going live. My heart was like jumping out of my chest because, again, I mean, and you guys know me. I don't shy easily. I'm not embarrassed. Like, you know, people have seen my photos on the LinkedIn local, you know, presentations, but all of Baltimore was seeing this, and I was, you know, waiting the whole hour, and finally my story ran. There were tears in my eyes. I was literally like, I was crying. I was crying tears of happiness. My wife was on her Facebook going live. My 5-year-old was like all on me saying, "Daddy, there you are on the news." My 11-year-old was on her iPad with her cousin in Pennsylvania saying, "Look, he's on the news." And it was just like, again, guy, I feel like I'm going to start like, you know, I was excited. Like this, it felt like a dream. And the fact that, you know, being on the news, like it wasn't even part of what I was trying to do originally. And I was just kind of glad that it went the way it did.
Yeah.
Very.
Well, look, that's huge. And I think it's probably, I mean, thinking about like all of us have kids. So just thinking about the impact that has on them seeing you on TV, like you're light years ahead of me. I was Maleficent for Halloween this past Halloween. And then we watched Maleficent #2. And my 4-year-old was like, "Mom, you're on TV." I'm like, thanks. I wish.
Well, it's great because even like a week later, you know, my 5-year-old sometimes wakes up at like, you know, the butt crack of dawn, like, you know, 5, 6 o'clock, comes in her bed. She's like, looks at me. She's like, "Daddy, I'm so proud of you." I'm like, you know, half asleep. I'm like, "For what?" She's like, "You were on the news, silly." And I'm like, "Oh."
You're like, yeah, I wake up at dawn to think about that too.
And that did things for me. And it was amazing seeing my work being published on the local news.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
So what was it like being on camera for the first time? Like, so you saw your media placement, but like doing that whole thing, getting ready, like, what was that like?
Yeah, I wasn't as nervous because, again, Jennifer was there to support me. I had another friend, Owen O'Donnell, that was also there.
Another LinkedIn local Baltimore person.
Yeah. He was also there, and I had a lot of support. And I knew that, you know, Rachel Carden, she seemed like an amazing person, even though I never met her. and you could tell right away that she was also warm and fuzzy, very personable. And we just, she just gave me the whole stuff. She's like, this is what I want to do. If you feel comfortable with it, and just put out the whole platform for me. She's like, if you screw up, don't worry about it. Like, this is pre-recorded. You have nothing to worry about. Like, and there's always time to edit.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was amazing because, like, we, Nate, the videographer, was there, documenting it, and they're just really personable. So it wasn't as nervous as seeing my work and my interview on the television.
Yeah, I mean, because now it was done, but I guess, yeah, it would be, like you said, it was all of Baltimore getting to see it. All right. So, Jenn, how did you help him get ready? And how do you normally help your clients get ready for these on-camera media spots?
Absolutely. And there's media training involved. It depends on what they, have it in their background in terms of being able to speak well and be comfortable. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so
Right.
I never want to disrespect another human being, obviously. But when I bring on a client, I want to make sure they're prepped and ready to go. And James is a wonderful speaker, and he's comfortable, and he's warm and personable as well. So that's easy. There are things you should say and things you should not say. Always keep professional and just be careful with the words you use and the tone. And that's that reputation management angle that's really important. But it's also about the relationship I have with that journalist coming in saying, okay, what are you looking for? How can we work together? And I met her for a while, going back and forth. And when I pitched the story to her, she's like, absolutely, I'm going to ask my boss if this is okay. I'll get back to you. And then the ball just, started rolling very quickly. And
So
yeah,
it's beyond then. It's beyond, just even getting the
yeah.
placement. Like the work that you
There's a
do
lot of
continues
prep
on
work.
as they come in.
Exactly. And also because we had done, we ended up with a bio and the press release, he can take that written content and look over it first. And I
Yeah.
always say, think of a triangle, think of 3 points when you go to get that newspaper or, TV interview, things that you'll say. That way,
Right.
when you get nervous, you already have practiced very carefully in front of a mirror is a good idea. What you're going to say and how you're going to react. And then what I always tell my clients is just be you. And that's actually one of my a hashtag that,
Yeah.
you just need to be yourself, because that's why you were chosen in the first place to do this media interview, because they already liked everything they've seen and everything to get to know you as a professional in your space or in your industry, so to speak.
Absolutely. Okay. So, guys, how did this story get on Good Morning America? Like, okay, I'm like, oh, wow, local Baltimore news, DC news. This is cool. And then I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Good morning, Good Morning America?
Yeah.
What?
And there was, and I always say it's like a slow, methodical climb. It's about momentum. It's about a spider web. I try to think of all these analogies, right? You have something that happens. I always like to go real niche and local. So I think what happens, the way this all went was it was the Baltimore Times first, right? And then you had an interview. Then, God, it was Baltimore Times and then WJZ. And then that sat for a while. And then you messaged me, James, that DCWJLA ABC saw that content from the WJZ CBS interview, and they were very curious. So then you and your wife went downtown. It was, I think, Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
To be interviewed, right? And then a lot of other breaking news happened, so they delayed running it till last week. Well, that was Friday, correct?
Yeah.
And then what happens, and even Rachel had said when she did the interview, sometimes the network can pull it up, which, just take that segment and you never know where it will go.
Right.
And so that's traction. And that's what I always tell my clients. I can't guarantee earned media because that's just, it's not my decision to put something in a news article or whatever, news story. But then that ran Friday night. And then tell us what happened after that, James.
Oh, and if you guys have links to any of these, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm sure that the people watching would love to kind of see that progression.
So I was working that Saturday after the news article in DC aired, and the correspondent, Devin Dwyer, emailed me saying, hey, these are the links for the article. Also, this is going to be running on Good Morning America. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like, okay. So I immediately, and again, in the middle of the hospital, like, starstruck, I texted Jennifer. I think I screenshot the email. I was like, oh my gosh, look, like this is, and yeah, that's really how it went down. And of course, I was more nervous than than the original placement, because now this was national news. My family in Massachusetts saw it. My family in Virginia saw it. Like, it was crazy. I never really watched Good Morning America because, again, we have kids. You have kids. I'm lucky if I'm going to be able to watch the news, online.
Right. Yeah. They want to watch Sesame Street and stuff.
Right. I was getting, I didn't think that it would run because of all the late breaking news that happened overnight.
Yeah.
A lot of different things occurred, and I was like, you know what? It's not going to run. It's fine. I got the DC, I got the WJZ, I got a lot of publications. So I went downstairs, made my wife and I a cup of coffee, and came back up, and I saw the beginning of the article that the WJLA DC put on Friday evening. I was like, is this really happening? Like, and I was like, holy cow, man! Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that's I'd have been like, which Good Morning America? Is there another one?
Exactly. Like, is it going to be, Al Roker or, like whoever, it was crazy.
All right. So what would you say, so this exposure, like Jen said, like this is momentum, right? It's building and it continues to build and more people hear about you and from you. What has that exposure done for your photography business? Like, are there new projects and things that you're working on? Like, how is this starting to play out for you as a business owner?
So the moment that my media placement on WJZ occurred, I had a lot of people asking if I was printing the photos. And again, I wasn't, I didn't think about it. And, that's something I'm working on right now. I am donating some of my photos to the Maryland Historical Society. Wow. They reached out to me as well, and it's kind of great.
That's huge, James. It's not kind of great. That's really great. That's super great.
Yeah. And they want to archive the photos for the next generations, and this is Baltimore's history. This is our nation's history. I'm also working on a project with Shelby Blondell that I have not really spoke about yet, so that'll be at a later date. Okay. And it's just, I was in your, good, tell me something good newsletter, I think once or twice, twice. Okay. And also multiple businesses have reached out to me saying, hey, we saw your work. Once everything gets back to the new normal, whatever that might be, we want to work with you. We want to talk to you, see what you have to offer. I had somebody call me the other day saying, hey, I need new photos for my website. Can we meet for coffee or, do an online chat or something just to, get the ball running so that whenever things do open up, it's, ready to go.
Right. And I think that's huge too, because a lot of times when we think of PR as smaller business owners, right, we think of like, oh, PR is for like big companies. PR is for famous people. But you're a prime example. PR is for anybody right? Because this has gotten you leads, new partnerships, new connections, new projects. Like this is something that you're going to reap the benefits of for months and months and months and months and potentially years, with the strategy done right. So I think that's just a huge highlight. Like whether you're a big company or, a single professional in a large company or a small business owner, nonprofit, you're doing something with your church, like PR could benefit pretty much anybody,
Right.
right?
I mean, even something that we haven't spoken about, but the Baltimore Sun will be running a feature on me, hopefully in the next couple of weeks as well. And that was also due to the PR relationship that Jennifer and I have built. So
that's
right.
amazing.
I reached out to the Baltimore Sun and told them about it and sent the photos ahead. And then our contact, said yes. And so we're waiting for it to air. It's a really special feature article. It's called A Day in the Life. So these are feature articles. This is pretty coveted. This is not always the way it goes. This is really top tier, high end media placements that James is receiving. And it's not just about the media relations. I've given a lot of great kind of out of the box creative ideas to James too about, doing a book or doing, a gallery showing. So, I mean, it's, there's so much into it. I provide my clients with counsel, ideas, and then also the reputation management, what to say, what not to say, how to handle yourself in the public domain, and then he didn't have a website. So I'm like, you have to have a website because these placements will go up as a press drop down on your website along with your headshot and your bio, and a press contact needs to be there so that people can reach out to you. There are a lot of bloggers and freelance writers that, may end up coming to James now to learn more. So it's all the preparation that goes into it that people don't see behind the scenes. That a PR professional such as myself is responsible for.
On the other side too, just from a digital marketing perspective, when you have that website, you can, most of the press releases, and of course the press release is your domain, but I do know that most of the press releases will allow you to at least offer a link for them to use. So when those placements go out everywhere, now these incredibly high domain authority sites are linking back to your website. So James, your site is new, but you're getting, like, my site's like a year old, so it's not super, it's not super old, but there are sites, 5 or 10 years old that don't have links with authority as high as what you now have. And that is huge.
Yeah. And your website needs to, when you Google yourself, your website needs to come right up. As long as, like for me, I Google myself and there's a lot in there now. And usually my website comes up first and then my LinkedIn profile too. So yeah, it's,
all right. So I wanted to close this out by talking about, okay, so Good Morning America, another national placement, right? Something like that. How does a business keep the momentum going after such a huge win, right? Because those PR releases kind of center around events, things that occur. So how do you keep this going?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, what I would tell James, and he knows, is to keep the momentum going. It's letting everybody know, using his email list and telling everybody, I'm so grateful and honored to have been on Good Morning America this past Sunday. Here's the link. If you guys are interested in, meeting with me or talking about future photography opportunities, I would love to, sit and chat with you or do a Zoom call. It's, that's the whole thing is getting an interview with the media helps to build the traction and the momentum, like you've said, to help your business move forward. And that's why I always say, there's a difference between marketing and public relations. Marketing is kind of the data-driven information kind of systems. Public relations is about building relationships. And I think that's why I love PR so much, because that's kind of in my nature to build relationships and to help build that that spider web, those connections, and keep things going. And being creative outside of the box, it's a lot more cost efficient to do public relations sometimes. And then again, marketing and PR totally does work together. But if you need to DIY your PR or you have a low budget for it, James has done some himself due to budget constraints too. So he knows how. But I remember him saying, he's like, I just don't have time to do this myself. I need your help. So that was important too. But not everybody is as lucky to get this big media placement. But going backwards again, it's about storytelling and sharing your passion or your expertise with others to help others. And one great thing that was in the WJZ interview that he did, that I said, can we, something like, Rachel, is this appropriate to say that? And I wanted James to be kind of an authority because of healthcare and being, a young professional, that he was able to say a quick sentence about, please stay home, stay safe. I miss going out and meeting my friends for happy hour or something. But, that is the beauty of a media relations interview and having a relationship with a news person, that she actually asked me, Jen, what else should we get in this news story so we could work together? She said, oh, I love working with like a PR person that I know knows their stuff. So it was great and it was fun. And I love that. I love collaborating with other people to bring an interview to a higher level that is more valuable to everybody involved.
Man.
So
I was telling Jen yesterday, I was like, man, I need something to happen in my life so I can hire her too. like, I mean, it doesn't have to be Good Morning America, but I'm like, Jen's amazing.
I did a lot of crisis communications, and I've worked like 9/11 and Columbine, and like those are you don't want that stuff.
No, but I'm like, I don't want something like that to happen, but I need a development, right? I need a development. Like,
that's what I do. I can mine for stories, extrapolate the unique brilliance in somebody and help them shine. That's what I love to do. I love to share stories that are unique and different and rise to the top so that the news outlets see the value. And it's all about me respecting journalists, and I adore journalists. They're working so hard. They're being laid off. They're being furloughed. Get subscriptions to your local newspapers and your national newspapers, support them so that we can have really amazing opportunities to share our stories. That's the most important part.
All right. Well, you know what? We actually kept this really very much on time. I think I put it for like 45 minutes or something. So we got in a ton of value here, and I'm so grateful to the both of you for doing this. Again, the power of relationships. Here we are. And we've got some comments. So if you guys have a minute, please, like once we close out, go back and, chat with those people. We had some people join just to come see this interview. So and we'll be at LinkedIn Local Baltimore tonight. So make sure you head on over there.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm at Jennifer@jlmstrategiccommunications.com, and my website is jlmstrategiccommunications.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn all the time. And on Twitter
Jen, put those links in the comments. Like people will be able to click as soon as they're done watching.
I know, I'm doing this from my phone, so it's just not as
I will put them in the comments. How about that?
I appreciate it. You're awesome. You're fantastic. I adore you. You know
that. So the contact links, everybody, will be in the comments of this video. Be sure to click on them and just check out what's going on. If you think that you have an event where somebody like James could come and capture those moments for you, no matter what the event is, obviously, because James's abilities range from the positive all the way to those more raw human moments, be sure to reach out to him. His contact information's there. And then Jen, she's obviously an amazing PR professional. And of the ones that I know, she's the one that always comes to my mind. Like I said, like I was not kidding. Like I'm building up to something, and I'm like, as soon as it happens, Jen, as soon as it happens, I'm going to be throwing money at her so that way she can help me. So she is the person I recommend for this stuff, the both of them. So make sure that you take advantage of that. If you think you have something coming up, start that relationship with them now, because you don't want to contact them in the moment and they'd be like, I'm already booked.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's it for today. And I'm so happy. You guys were just the best for this.
So are you.
Thank you so much. And yes, and for everybody who watched, thank you. And if you didn't catch all of it, be sure to rewind and catch what you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.